So it's an honor to have Jeff Hayzlett join us this morning. Thank you. I think you have a...
I do. If I have a mic, and if the mic doesn't work, I'm loud as hell, so it doesn't make a difference. Donald Trump sends his regards this morning. I just want to say right off the bat, he's a very good friend. Now I'm a former, John didn't mention, I'm a former chief of staff for Tom Daschle. Used to work for George McGovern. I'm on the left side of the aisle politically, although Donald Trump's my good friend because we've done a number of business together. I've been on Celebrity Apprentice for 3 years as a judge. But I just want to say right off the bat that I still believe he's batshit crazy. Start with that. But at the same time, you should get used to calling me Ambassador Hayzlett. That's just what I tell everybody. It's amazing the sentiment that's going through, and it's part of what I think is the sentiment of what I call think big, act bigger in terms of just driving change. That there's a whole sentiment out there of people who are fed up with it, whether it's replacing a Supreme Court judge and do your job and get the shit done, regardless of what you think the politics of the president, or maybe it's Board of Governors in terms of leaving vacant spots where they shouldn't be vacant. And it's amazing. I'll talk a little bit about some of those things. I just met in Boston with 500 C-suite leaders. It's part of a community that we're building. We're taking the upper echelon of what I call LinkedIn, because so many of us are probably on LinkedIn, but we get so many solicitations of people we don't want to know. And I think we're all just fed up with it. And so I've created a group called the C-Suite Network where you have to qualify to get in. It's free. We have 175,000 executives that have already stepped in, and it was a result of doing a television show, which I have on Bloomberg. I'm a number one, most of you probably don't even know it, because it's broadcast. And when was the last time that you ran home to watch a primetime broadcast show? When was the last time you ran home to watch a primetime business show? I rest my case. And I found out the third episode into our show, by the way, we're the number one grossing, number one watch show, number one grossing by dollar amount, and the number one net show, most profitable show on television. And yet you probably don't even know it. And that's okay. And so the third show in, I started having more people watch me online than were watching me through broadcast. And so I went out and created a digital show. I now own 5 digital shows. This year I'll add 7 more. And I have over 200 episodes, and we have a community of about 1.5 million people. And yesterday, had another $6 million worth of new advertisers come in. So it ain't bad. It ain't bad. I'm from South Dakota. Anyone here from South Dakota? Never is, but I always like to ask that question. This is what we'd call population density right here in this room. No, you'd be the 11th largest city right here, just right in this room. The first time being with you guys reminds me of the first time I met my wife's great-grandmother. Now, my wife, Tammy, of 36 years, is 5'1", about 105 pounds. I'm 6'3", 200 and some pounds. And Grandma Agnes was even smaller than Tammy. She's 4'11". First time I met her, she looked up at Tammy, and she looked way up at me, and she looked at Tammy, and she looked up at me, and then she turned to Tammy and said, "Isn't he bigger than necessary?" So I feel like that with you guys a little bit. As our good host mentioned, I'm the former Chief Marketing Officer of Eastman Kodak. Prior to Eastman Kodak, I worked at Cinveo. I helped roll up about 140 different printing operations. I'm a former printer myself. Used to sit on the Postal Customer Council, sit on a couple of national postal activities or events or councils that they had from time to time. I am the biggest believer in print since Gutenberg. I still believe it to be the most trusted medium there is in the world. I still preach to many CMOs. I'm probably one of the best known CMOs out there. Forbes magazine used to call me the celebrity CMO. And then I've got a number of good friends like Ramesh and others that are here in this room that I've worked with for decades. And so it's good to be with you. And Yesterday, I finished 2 days of filming 7 different television shows. I finished interviewing Beth Comstock, the vice chair of GE, which was interesting. Beth's a good friend. She used to be the CMO at NBC, became now the CMO of, then CMO of GE, and now the vice chair, one of 5 women vice chairs in Fortune 1,000 companies, which is ridiculous to think about that. There are only 20 female CEOs of Standard & Poor's companies, for instance. And I asked her yesterday, I said, when are we going to stop having these conversations about why you're so special because you're a woman when it shouldn't be so special? It should just be a common kind of thing. Anyway, side note, I'll do squirrels from time to time. Squirrels are something I wrote about in the book. Did you ever see the movie Up? Isn't that a great movie? And in the movie Up, they have Doug the talking dog. And Doug the talking dog runs into the 2 characters of the movie and goes, "Hi, I'm Doug the talking dog. You seem like very nice people. I can talk because my owner has outfitted me with this collar that allows you to hear my innermost thoughts." Squirrel? And he goes, "A squirrel." So from time to time, I'll do a squirrel. Okay? So if you see that happening, just yell out "squirrel." And because I say that in business, what we have to do is kill squirrels. We have to kill squirrels. But yesterday, I finished up with Beth Comstock, and then I did a thing on CNN. And as I'm staring there talking to this little camera 2,000 miles away, in my earpiece, Wolf Blitzer was talking to me, and he said, like almost every single day, someone comes up to me and says, "Jeff, why did Kodak go bankrupt last year?" I mean, we all know Kodak. Why did they go bankrupt? And I'm 6 years away from the job, and people still ask me that. And I had to say, I said, "Wolf, they didn't go bankrupt last year. They went bankrupt back in 1975. Just finally realized it. In 1975, a gentleman by the name of Steve Sasson sat in a room, and he took digital component parts and he put together the very first digital camera. Now, the camera was a blue box about this big. I know it to be that because it used to sit on my desk as a reminder of what we passed up. So everybody could see this. When they came into the office, they would see what we did and how we did it, and that we made this device that Steve went around to executives and said, "Look, I've changed the way we can do Kodak memories." And he actually took that night a real photograph and took a digital photograph of a photograph. I mean, how ironic. And the next day, he went from executive to executive with this blue box and said, "Look what I've got. A new way of doing it." And every single executive in that company said, "Put it away." You see, we make a roll of film, and in this little roll of film, we get 90% profits from that little roll of film. And it goes in this little yellow box that's the most recognizable box in the world, with the most recognizable logo in the world, if you can think of it at that time. Bigger than Apple, bigger than any other company in the world in terms of its favorability rating, in terms of its net value. It was massive. And they said, "We're not in the moments business, we're in the film business." And therein, they forgot what they did. They had the only product that people would actually run back into a burning building to save. Now, I know that to be true. In 2001, in my ranch back in South Dakota, lightning struck the house. Came through the house, actually hit me. I'm out. I can't hear, I can't see, I'm knocked out. As I'm waking up, my wife is running by with a box of photographs going, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" True story. And just so you know where you stand, guys, just so you know where you stand. The experience that you have in terms of the postal side is the exact same thing, in my opinion. The mail moment. The most trusted medium in the freaking world. And it's going away. What business are we in? I'm not asking you to drive change for change's sake. Nobody wakes up in the morning and says, "I can't wait to be stupid." Well, there's a few people, all right? But by and large, no one does that. But we know that change has to come. At the same time, when we jump into an automobile to take a trip, we don't lock in the steering wheel, we don't lock in the brake, we don't lock in the gas. We make adjustments. The problem is in thinking about what is our fundamental thing that we do. For Kodak at the time, it was a great lesson. They were in the business of Kodak moments. They lost their way. By the time I stepped in 2006 as CMO as Kodak, they had actually let the trademark to the phrase Kodak moments expire. They were in the emotional technology business. What is the business that we're in? And that's a fundamental piece. The premise of my show, The C-Suite, is I go in to businesses where I see something that's happened and I go, why did they do that? I take people into a room with the C-Suite where 99% of the people who work at the company never get to walk into. And we have a conversation around a premise. And I find certain things that we develop as businesses that change over time in terms of things that happen that we see and that we've got to talk about. One of those would be that cause us to fail is transparency. Radical transparency. The best teams in the world have radical transparencies. How many of us have walked into a conference room, walked into a meeting, and there's this big elephant standing right there in the room, and no one talks about it? In fact, we walk out of the meeting, we all talk to our colleague, we said, did you see it? Yeah, don't make eye contact, right? Great companies, great teams have radical transparency. If you're playing on a football team and you're the quarterback and you start getting sacked, and we know it's because this guard has missed his block and the linebacker has come through and tackled me, and if I don't talk about it, what happens is we get in the huddle and we start resenting it, and we start, even though this is one of our best players, one of the best and all pro linemen, we're starting to think and doubt this person because we're not talking about it. We're not being transparent about it. And what great teams do is they come back, he comes up in the huddle and says, John, what's wrong? You're missing your block. You're not delivering your numbers. You're not hitting your quota. We're not getting our efficiencies. Whatever you want to say. And if we don't have that conversation, we start to resent our players on the team. But even better players, better teams come back and say, John says, hey, I'm missing my block. The guy across from me, he's tougher than I thought. I'm having an off day. I need help. And the guy next to him says, it's not a problem. I can hit my guy and come over and help you. That's what great teams do. And they talk about it. And they have conversations about it. And they cause tension, which I'll talk about in a moment, because that's what they do. I'm watching the television one night, and I see on the TV a Domino's pizza commercial come on. Commercial pops up and says, our pizza tastes like cardboard. It sucks. Did you see a commercial? You guys get, come on, you got cable TV? You get out a little bit? All right, you've seen the commercial. Comes on, and I'm thinking, who in their right mind pays money to go tell customers they suck? Can you imagine what the meeting was like? And so this is the premise of the show. I'm thinking they're sitting around the boardroom table, the chairman's talking about it, everyone's getting up and presenting their results, and then all of a sudden and they're saying how great they are, and then someone says, whoa, and then he calls on Jeff, who happens to be the CMO. Jeff, we suck. We suck so bad, we should tell customers about it. And not only that, we should change the recipe, we should change the name. And Mr. Chairman, let me see if I got this right. You agreed with him. You spent $10 million, changed the recipes, got world-class chefs in, did taste testings, did all this stuff. Then you decided that you're not really about pizza as much anymore. You're about all the fast casual. You're about open concepts. You're not just about coming and picking up or delivery. You're going to do this and that. And then you spent $80 million in advertising to tell people that you sucked before. Okay? And you're basically changing the brand promise. He said, we're not changing the brand promise. I said, bullshit. And I did it on my own show. I got bleeped on my own show. I said, bullshit. You're changing the brand promise. The brand promise, we all know what the brand promise is. 30 minutes or it's free. Exactly. They cared more about getting the box than what was in the box. And now they're saying they care more about what's in the box than the box itself. That's changing the brand promise. I mean, how many of us used to get home at night, right? Call Domino's on the phone. We called Domino's on the phone and we hung up. And what was the first thing we did? We checked our watch, hoping that we would get a free shitty pizza. Basically, that's what we did. So not only we wanted a free shitty pizza, we were hoping they would give us shitty service so they would get the shitty pizza. And we were willing to pay money for it. Okay? That's basically the promise, and they changed it. And they changed it. And then they went out and told people about it, and the freaking chairman of the company kept his job. I thought that's an interesting concept, right? And so I went and talked to them, found out what happened, and they told me what happened. They showed me how they did it, and we reenacted a little bit of the meeting around the conference room, and guess what the results were? Their stock went from 70 cents to over $70 in 3 months. Every single day they ran the ads, it was like a Super Bowl Sunday. They almost ran out of pepperoni. True story. I watch things and I say, why do they have to be that way? Because they don't. Did a show on Cadillac. One of the cool things about being in the television business is they give you shit to wear. I used to, on my books and stuff I used to have an addiction to Diet Mountain Dew. And I love Diet Mountain Dew, and I used to drink like 10 of them a day. And then, and 5-hour energy drinks. I used to have like 6 of those a day. Now it's like 16 espressos. So I've changed. I'm trying to get healthier. And I write about Diet Mountain Dew, and one day Pepsi, the truck pulls up into my home, and they deliver like 4 pallets of Diet Mountain Dew. Holy shit. So I start writing about Rolexes and things like that now. A lot better. And so, so Cadillac gives me an Escalade to use for the show. And I'm driving a Cadillac. Now, I don't know if you've been in an Escalade lately. I hit the gas pedal, I'm driving around. Holy shit, this is like a badass car. This ain't like my grandfather's Cadillac. And then I got to thinking, wait a second. What happened? Why do they have such a cool car? That's not the brand. And then I got to thinking about, my gosh, how can they be a luxury company and they went bankrupt? And they're in a bankrupt city. And so we did a show about that. And by the way, after the show, they moved the headquarters to New York. Part of our job as leaders, for all of us, is to create tension. It's to create tension. You may not like Donald Trump, but that guy's going to create tension. And I'm not trying to endorse him or say anything. I'm just telling you how he operates. Do you think he means build a wall in Mexico or the border along? Now, if the American people say, yes, you should build a brick wall, he'll claim it as his idea without question. But they'll probably say no, so he'll talk about a wall of security. See, our job is to take everybody from the center of the stage and move them to the edge where it's dangerous, where we almost fall off. And you have people in your organization that want to drag you back to the middle, where it's safe and comfortable. You know who they are. HR. Right? Legal, those sneaky bastards, right? But see, that's not their job. That's not their job. Their job is to make sure you don't fall off. That's the job that they have. It's our job to create the tension. And that's what we have to do as business leaders. I've had some unbelievable opportunities to meet some of the greatest people in the world. And my job back in college was to have and take care of major celebrities and speakers and dignitaries that came onto the campus of my small little school in South Dakota called Augustana College. 2,000 students. And we had some of the greatest speakers in the world come there and lecture. Margaret Thatcher, Mikhail Gorbachev, John Majors, President Reagan, Elie Wiesel, Andrew Young, Ralph Nader, who I picked up at the airport in a 1976 Ford Pinto. He wouldn't get in the car. It's a true story. So for those of you laughing, there's a couple younger people here who aren't, please explain that to them at the break, would you? And then I had a person by the name of Jacques Cousteau. You remember Jacques Cousteau? He was my hero. I used to love to watch. It was the only, when I was a kid watching on Sunday night, remember Sunday night we'd watch The Wonderful World of Disney? And then afterwards, Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom, right? We always had Marlin sitting in the truck while Jim was out in the field wrestling the alligator. And then that music would come on, and it was the undersea adventures of Jacques Cousteau. Well, I caused tension in my family because I begged them to let me stay up past my bedtime. And I would sit in front of the TV, and I would put on one of those red stocking caps, if you remember that? And I would wear it because he was my hero. And here I was in college the night before he was speaking, and I'm having dinner with him. And he's talking. He's regaling me with a story. He tells me this one story where he's down up underwater, about 130 feet down, in a cave. Now, if you know anything about diving, at about 130 feet, you know you have to come up in stages. And if you don't come up in stages, you get what they call the bends, which is very painful. It's the expansion of air molecules in the bloodstream, and it can cause you to die. And even if you live and get to this chamber that they put you in, a decompression chamber, it's very, very painful. And as he was down underwater, he knew at the time of which he had to come up, based on his air that he'd been taking, how much time he'd been down in the depth, the formula that calculates that. He started to come up, and the equipment wasn't like it is today. When he came up out of the cave, he hit his air regulator, or that little piece of equipment back there, and it broke, and what little air he had in his tank shot out like a rocket. In that split second, he knew life or death. I mean, it came to him. Swim as fast as you possibly can. And he knows, in his mind, in that split second, he's probably going to get the bends, but he's got a chance to live. And he takes off. And as he's swimming up as fast as he can, out of nowhere comes one of his swimming buddies and tackles him, stops him, turns him around. He takes out his air, shoves it into Jacques' mouth. And they make their way up in stages. And obviously, he lived because I was talking to him. And I turned to him and I said, Mr. Cousteau, weren't you scared? You could have died. And he said to me, he said, Jeffrey, one should never be scared when you're in good company. This industry, like many others, is going through significant change. It's going to be scary. It's also going to be exciting because of the possibilities of what you can do. But the cool thing is to be able to have forums like this that our host has put together and a community like this to know that you're in good company. And I thank you for having me today and being a part of this, and I look forward to seeing you at the